Hi everybody, welcome back. I've been very slowly doing a series about going no contact, and I wanted to make a special episode this week for the holidays. I want to acknowledge how difficult this time of year can be for those of us with covert narcissist mothers. Whether you're no contact, whether you're in contact, either way, it's tough. You know, Christmas or whatever holiday you celebrate, of course, that's supposed to be a time of warmth and care with those we love and those who love us. But we know all too well that it's a holiday that can be like any other day if we're with our mothers, that's filled with just the underhanded jabs, the insults, the just being mistreated generally, while we watch our mothers fawn over others. And if you're no contact, that does bring its own challenges. You know, you see families getting together all around you, and yours is pretty much ripped apart because you're protecting yourself from abuse. It's hard either way, and I want to establish right off the bat here, you can do whatever you want for the holiday. Whatever you want. If you're dreading going and being with family members who don't treat you well or respect you, you don't have to go. That can be hard to fully grasp because society tells us the whole meaning of this season is being with family. And, so we're just terrible people if we don't do that. But this is your life, and it's absolutely okay. It's not wrong to spend your holiday the way you want to spend it. And if you'd rather spend it with friends or stay at home with your immediate family or even just stay home by yourself if that's your situation, if that's what you prefer, if you want to make a big lunch for yourself or just sit and watch a movie while you eat a microwave dinner, whatever it is that you want to do to enjoy the holiday, you're not wrong for doing it. It's okay to truly enjoy the holiday, and you don't owe anyone else the right to ruin it for you. This has been significant for me this time of year since I went no contact with my mother and eventually my sister as well, because my mother always made a really big deal out of Christmas. She was from a home with a father who was very abusive. There were a lot of problems. They were very poor because my grandpa spent so much of their money on alcohol and things like that. But my grandparents always gave lots of gifts to their kids on Christmas. And because of that, my mother solidified in her mind that that's what makes a good parent. It's having a big Christmas. And so Christmas for her was like, she shopped all year round preparing for it. And some people do that because they want to grab deals and, just find things on sale, things like that. But it was like it was always on her mind, like this was like the goal of the year. And I can see now how much of this was actually about her. How we did our holidays was about her because it's how she convinced herself that she was an amazing parent. It just really wasn't about us. Christmas morning, in our family, we always opened one gift at a time. So we'd all kind of be in a circle and, someone would pull out a gift. Here's for so-and-so. They open it up. And by the time my sister got married, and she had 3 kids, so, it would be me, my son, my mother, my sister, her husband, her 3 kids, and my brother. This was before he was married. Before I had my son, my dad was alive. He died a year before my son was born. But point being, it's a decent-sized group, and we would sit for 2 to 3 hours opening gifts one by one. And it's not that I didn't enjoy this. I'm just pointing out how our family did Christmas differently than most do. Most of the gifts were from my mother to everyone there, and as each gift would open, my mother would, there was always some detail, some story, where she found it, or, just something like that. She really, really loved this process. And I can just see now by the way she, like I said, 90% of those gifts were from her toward others, and everything was about her talking about shopping and buying it. And like I said, she spent all year preparing for this. And I can see now, and just recognizing that she was like showcasing herself as this incredible mother in her mind, and is why she loved it so much. And yet, like, weirdly at the same time, I mean, I just got the oddest gifts from her that really had nothing to do with me. I mean, there were occasions she would give me something that I actually wanted, but that was the exception, the rarity. And it was really most years she'd ask what I wanted, and I would think of something that was affordable that I could use, or whatever, just something that I wanted. And so I'd tell her, because she asked. I never really called her and said, hey, I want such and such for Christmas. She would specifically ask me. So I would tell her, and then her response would be that she didn't want to get that for me. That wouldn't be fun for her to buy, or she wouldn't like buying that, or just some weird reason. And then, at times, she would give that very thing I'd asked for to someone else in the family. So then I'd spend my holiday watching that person receive a gift my mother refused to get from me. And I don't think that would have been so bothersome if it weren't piled on top of a mountain of other times that I was treated as lesser. It was just, that's how my holiday was reliving this experience yet again, where my mother sees me and treats me as defective, as less than. I'm not on an equal plane with everybody else. And it hurt. It would always hurt my feelings. But outside of that, Christmas was always a big deal because my mother made it a very big deal. And so walking away from her and my sister and that tradition, that's all I'd ever known Christmas as. It's all we'd ever done, is get up on Christmas morning and do that. Or, once we were grown and moved all around, we'd all, usually go to my sister's house and do that. And then we would have a big dinner. That's just all I'd known. And so walking away and not having that anymore, just deciding what I wanted the holiday to mean for me, and how I wanted our holiday to look like, I felt a little lost at first. But I've learned over time that we don't actually have to have holiday traditions, unless you want to, of course, but it's not a requirement. Every Christmas for me and my son, since I went no contact, has looked different. In past years, I've taken my son on a little trip, or, sometimes we spent one year we spent Christmas Eve with some friends, and then Christmas Day alone, just the two of us. Another year we were with different friends. It's been different every single year. And that's okay. There doesn't have to be this one singular tradition that you repeat every single year. And that has really helped me, because I think I felt this pressure of like, well, we're not doing that tradition now, so now I have to come up with a new thing that I do every single year. And there is pressure in that. What if you don't like it very much? What if it's just not really your thing, but it's our tradition now, so we have to do it? So just let that go. You don't have to decide that whatever you do this year for the holiday season is what you have to start doing year by year. Just do what you feel like doing this year. A lot of us are on some really emotionally intense journeys as we're healing from abuse. We're at all different stages of that. And what you need right now in this stage of your healing journey might be totally different than what you need in a couple years, or even next year, or in 10 years. So just decide what is best for me for the holiday season this year. And speaking of which, this year has really been particularly difficult for me. I was pretty emotional yesterday and having a hard time. I'm better today comparatively, definitely, but something pretty big happened in my family yesterday. My mother got married. When I first found out, I couldn't help but think, oh God, what poor sap did she find now? But I let those feelings go pretty quickly. I just don't want to dwell in a negative space. And I don't know anything about the guy. It's really not for me to say. I just know how much my mother walked all over my dad. My dad had a lot of mental health issues, pretty extreme depression and anxiety. Life was just not very kind to him. And he was just sort of there in the house. He died in 2013, and while our relationship was definitely very complicated, I really do miss him so much. And I've come to see how much his mental health issues were what made him a match for my mother, because he didn't really stand up to her, and he just sort of stayed out of the way and let her run the place the way she wanted. So that's where those initial thoughts came in, was, well, who's she going to do that to now? But I just don't want to dwell on those things. I'm not involved, so I'm just sort of distancing myself from that kind of thinking. I don't see how that is good for me or benefits me in any way. A bit more triggering, though, was the fact that my mother tried to use her upcoming wedding to get me to restore contact with her. It's so hard sometimes to understand in their mind. Like, you getting married, what does that have to do with anything in our relationship? That doesn't repair anything. It doesn't mean you're going to treat me differently. It means none of the things that would be required for me to restore contact. So she first contacted my brother. I didn't know that for a while, but she asked him to tell me that she was getting married. And I do want to mention, my brother has been really supportive of me for a long time now. I think it helps that his wife is from a more or less healthy family. No family's perfect. She's been able to really help him see. And also, I'll just mention, like, even just being with her family and seeing a normal, healthy family with healthy dynamics, that's all helped him see just the dysfunction to a pretty good extent that our mother has. He's a golden child, and he recognizes that. And he's still learning about the manipulative nature our mother has. I think he has a hard time grasping that from where he's standing, but he does respect my view. He respects my boundaries and has acknowledged, he's pretty sure, yeah, I think our mother has this disorder, covert narcissism. And for that, I know that as a scapegoat child, I am extremely lucky. I lost my relationship with my sister through all of this. She blames me for basically everything. She wants nothing to do with me unless I admit what a horrible screw-up I am and just how many problems I've supposedly caused in our family. Like, the only narrative she's willing to be a part of is everything that I've done wrong to cause this problem. Not her, not my mother, it's all me. You know, I was bullied a lot by my sister growing up, and that was at the encouragement of my mother. And my sister married very young. I was still actually, I think it was right when I graduated from high school. She married someone, but they dated all while we were in high school and teenagers. And he joined her in that. Like, you know, they both just sort of ganged up and bullied me a lot. They can really be a bully toward others in certain circumstances. It's taken me time to see how they really are toward others. I've just been so used to that kind of behavior that was so normalized. I wasn't really able to see it clearly while I was in it. My mother helped my sister bully me while I was growing up, and because of that, my sister has an extremely negative view of me as a person, and she feels better about herself by looking down on me. And then, of course, that's just a recipe for disaster in a relationship. I, went no contact with my mother and kind of reduced my contact with my sister. She was saying a lot of hurtful things to me. And then going for a long time where I didn't have that kind of treatment in my life, I was able to better recognize it. It wasn't so normalized now. And so then, of course, yes. And then our relationship fell apart because I was no longer willing to tolerate that behavior. And I know for many of you, that's the case with all of your siblings. And I really feel for you. I know a lot of you have lost your entire families and you don't have even just one or two people. And again, I really feel for you. I do. And I do recognize I'm very lucky to have a good relationship with my brother. My brother is 10 years younger than me, and so I think that's why he hasn't, our relationship hasn't been as impacted, because by the time he was 5 or 6 and even forming memories, I was a teenager and I was away from home, as much as I possibly could. So we just didn't have that kind of dynamic that my sister and I do. But anyway, all that said, my mother called him and she asked him to tell me that she was getting married, and he understands that this is touching a part of my life that's really traumatic for me. It involves her. It involves communication from her. So he told her to let him think about it and decide, if he would, and if he did decide to do so, what would be the best way to approach this that respects me and my feelings about everything. And then he would let her know what he decided. Well, not surprisingly, big surprise, that answer wasn't good enough for my mother. She has to have her way. So she called my Aunt Mary. And I have a whole series about how this has impacted my relationship with my Aunt Mary. She's my mother's sister. That's a relationship, a person that is extremely important to me. She's had a very significant role in my life from a very young age. And we've had some significant challenges in our relationship. My mom manipulated her into being a flying monkey, and that really escalated into some serious problems. And it's been a very long, slow process, but we're slowly and cautiously working through our issues. I'm definitely more guarded, like I said, more cautious with her than I'd like to be, but it's how it needs to be at this time. I'll share more about that in another episode, so I can give more of an update there. But anyway, my mother called her and asked her if there was a way that she could reach me to tell me. And actually, right before this happened, now that I think about it, I just remembered this. My mother sent me a friend request on Facebook. It was so out of the blue. I was like, open my notifications. I was like, oh my God, what is she thinking? Now, I had her blocked on my Facebook, but apparently she has a different profile now and found me. And that must be why. She was trying to let me know that she was getting married. So my aunt did agree. She just sent me a message on Facebook and said, I just wanted to let you know something about your mother. And she sent a picture of my mother with the guy she's marrying, and she stated that they were getting married on December 22nd. And boy, it was really difficult even seeing a picture of her. I get such terrible, crushing feelings of anxiety and pain, like a crushing, burning sensation. And I used to live with that feeling all the time when I lived at home growing up, and now that I'm not used to having it, it really hits me hard when it happens. Anyway, so she sent that, and I just kind of sat there quietly, and then I just told her, I don't really have anything to say in response, and she left it at that and didn't bring it up again. Well, about a week or two later, I talked to my brother and brought it up, and he did tell me that my mother was hoping that this would open the door for me to restore contact. And like I said, that just really frustrated me. Like, why would I decide to restore contact with her because she got married? She was hoping that I'd come to the wedding. If your mom is a covert narcissist, I know you know exactly what I'm talking about. I know that she was hoping I'd come to the wedding, we would talk to each other, and so then we would just be in contact again like nothing ever happened, and things would just go back the way they were. That's how my mom, quote, resolves problems. But things can never go back to the way they were. I will be destroyed as a person if things went back to the way they were. My mother nearly destroyed me. She nearly destroyed who I am, and I had to terminate contact to save myself. She was never, ever going to stop treating me badly. And the only way I could get her mistreatment and abuse to stop was to stop all contact with her. So her being married changes that to a 0 degree. It does not change any of it. And yeah, it just showed me like she's still my mother. She's still the same. She thought maybe this big event would just, okay, maybe we can just sweep it all under the rug and she'll come back and be my scapegoat. Well, that conversation with my brother happened earlier this month, and we didn't really talk about it much, and I didn't think about it much after that. But Sunday night and yesterday, I was thinking about the fact that my brother's down there. My mother lives 2 states away from my brother. My brother lives where I used to live, and actually, my mother's been living with my sister for about 5 years now. And he went down for the wedding, of course. And then since it's almost Christmas, he's staying there for the week. They got an Airbnb in town. He and his wife sometimes go down there for a holiday, but they usually don't these days. And I just started thinking about him being there. And I'm not upset at him for being down there at all. That has nothing to do with my feelings. It was just knowing that they were all going to be there together, and that I wouldn't be welcomed. And let me explain what I mean by that. I could go to my sister's for Christmas. If I called one of them and said I want to come for Christmas this year, they would say yes. They would not stop me from coming. What I mean is that me, the real me, that person is not welcome there. I would, this wouldn't be spoken outright, of course, but I would have to agree to being bullied, to being treated like I'm this inferior, defective person that they have always treated me as. I would have to play that role. That's the only way I would be welcomed there. So the me who deserves respectful treatment, who deserves to not have to tolerate these jabs and the weird gift situation that's actually like weaponized against me, the me who deserves to stand on equal ground as the rest of the family. The person who's good-natured, who cares about other people, who's working hard on herself to overcome her traumas and not have them impact her life so much, that me, they want nothing to do with that me, the real me. And most years, I've been okay with Christmas being as it's been. It really has not bothered me that much. I mean, the first Christmas was a little hard, but we were with friends. It was okay. I was fine. But yesterday, I was just really, really grieving, like very intense. The first time in a long time I've really felt it this intensely, and definitely the first time it's been this bad around the holidays. I was just grieving for what I wish could be. I wish I could spend the holiday with my family, but I mean the real me. I don't wish for it to be as it was. I don't wish to go through another Christmas where it's like that. That's not what I mean. I mean, I wish that the true me could show up for the holiday and be embraced, and that just isn't an option for me. And the grief that caused that I'll never ever have that. It just really hit me hard yesterday. It's still bothering me today. Not as intensely as it was yesterday. Grief is like that. Grief for anything or anyone is like that. You know, you can be cruising along and you feeling like you're doing so well. Things are pretty steady and solid, and then boom, it hits you really hard, and you just, feel it down in your belly. And yesterday, I just felt the rejection of my family members and the grief that I'll never have a true family that really embraces and accepts me as I truly am. I just felt it extra hard, and they'll always see me as this lesser, defective person who wrecked everything, and I can't change that. And it felt so unfair. My mother assigned this role to me, the scapegoat child, when I was so young, and I had no ability to speak for myself or change my situation. That is so unfair. And I sat for a while and thought about the fact that, or just the idea that my sister-in-law can go and be treated well, but I can't. But then I thought about it more, and I realized that's not true at all. In fact, my mother has hurt my brother's wife's feelings on numerous occasions. Multiple members of my family have. She's Jewish. My sister-in-law is Jewish, and my mother sees her as nothing else. Like, every gift my mother gets her practically is just some random thing with a Jewish symbol on it. If you go in their home, that's not what you see everywhere. So you'd think it would click that that's not how she decorates her things. My mother, at least in her mind, is a devout Christian. She's used her religion as a weapon against me and others so many times. Like when I was younger and I'd tell her, something that she had done and how badly it hurt me. A lot of times she'd just shrug her shoulders and say, well, it's between you and the Lord to forgive me, and just walk out of the room. And that just not caring about my feelings at all in any way ever. The accumulation of thousands of such incidents, it just becomes unbearably painful. My mother has said some things that are very offensive in front of my sister-in-law. Like, my mom she'd go to garage sales and say, well, they wanted $5, but I jewed them down to $3. And my brother shared, like, that's very hurtful when you say that in front of her. You're insulting her. And my mother, she just didn't care. I think she did stop saying it in front of her because my brother got so upset with her, but she still says the word. And I remember her complaining about it. Oh, I'm not supposed to say that in front of them now. And, but just didn't actually care. When my brother was first dating his now wife and he brought her to meet my mother, back when they were getting more serious, my mother walked right up to her with this huge smile and said, "You're a child of Israel." Like, she was like, I don't think I need to explain how bizarre and horrible it was. I mean, that's just the sum total of how my mother sees her. And my sister-in-law is a wonderful person. She's a very kind person. She has so many values that actually resonate with me, that are my values too. Just as an example, like, she and my brother are minimalists. They own very few material possessions. I'm the same way. She's from a rather wealthy family, and I really respect, because I've known other people raised in wealthy families that were just very materialistic and obsessed with things and all that. But that has not made her materialistic at all. She lives a very humble life. They have a very small home that's just very spacious because there's not much in it. And at their wedding, I really loved this. My sister-in-law's mother actually conducted part of their wedding, and she talked about the example my brother and his wife set about materialism. And her mother said that she'd been gifted a set of dishes at her own wedding, and they'd never used it all these years, but she'd hung on to it all those years because, well, it was a wedding gift, and so of course she'd keep it. And she described how many things they owned that were hung on to for reasons like that really made no sense, that it wasn't being used. But they just, these things pile up and created lots and lots of stuff that they had to manage. And she acknowledged that my brother and his wife had chosen a different way, and that she really respected that. And so at their wedding, her mother took one of those glasses from that set that she was given at her wedding and never used. And that was the glass that they used to stomp on and break at their wedding. And I really loved the extra symbolism in that and the reflection of their values. And again, like, that's a value I hold as well. And my sister-in-law is a poet. She loves to read. She's a voracious reader. She takes classes about various books, it's kind of like a book club, but more formal than that. My sister-in-law is Jewish, and that's an important part of who she is as a person. But she is so much more than that, and my mother cannot and will not ever see any of that. And it shows in the comments that my mother makes, and it's really hurtful to my sister-in-law. My mother doesn't even know my sister-in-law, and she never will. And that does cause my sister-in-law pain. We've talked about it. Of course it would. And so I realized, my brother and sister-in-law aren't fully welcomed there either. My sister-in-law is in a specific role my mother assigned to her. She's the token Jewish girl of the family that she can showcase to the world. My brother has to play his part, the dutiful son who always does everything right. I mean, he's really tolerated some disrespectful behavior, offensive behavior from my mother, my sister, and my sister's husband. They've been very condescending toward him about this whole situation with me because he supports me in my stance. They say I've manipulated him. They treat him like he can't think for himself. I mean, my point here is everyone in this family has been assigned a role from early on by my narcissistic mother. And they all have to play that role or there will be issues. None of them are truly welcomed as they truly are. And it makes me feel better. And not because I want my brother or sister-in-law to be mistreated. Of course I don't. But this idea that they're fully welcome and I'm not, like, that's not true. I don't think my sister or husband really even know their own selves well. And I can say for my sister, she wasn't allowed that opportunity. Like, who she was defined for her too. It just wasn't as a scapegoat, so she wasn't mistreated so much. Everyone in the family suffers when a parent has narcissistic personality disorder. And I know the experiences are different, and as scapegoat children, our trauma can certainly be worse. In many ways, I understand that. I'm not trying to say we're all, that the problems are equal in their seriousness. But no one is accepted or embraced for exactly who they are by a narcissist. And that doesn't erase the grief of what I wish could be. It just helps me see that it's not just me. I'm not the only one not truly welcomed while others are. No one really is. And so I can at least let that aspect of the grief go. But like I said, it's still completely understandable to grieve something as important as a family. And whatever you're feeling this holiday season, it's okay. Some years it doesn't bother me that much. This year, the grief was much, much more intense. So much so, I even kind of romanticized the idea yesterday, just real briefly, of, what if I went back and reconnected and, we can want something so bad, we can enter this fantasy realm. It's why we can end up being love bombed and manipulated to go back, because we want to believe things could be better, and then when they're not, then we have to make other choices. But I just had to sit down and remember that everything that would come with that, if I ever did. That would be a lot of treatment that is no longer welcome in my life at all. I don't want to be around it. I definitely don't want my son exposed to it. And I just had to accept again that things are the way they are, and it's not in my power to change it. I just have to make the best of the situation I have and focus on my healing and building the life that I want out of the options that I have. It'd be great if one of my options was to have like a family, but it's not. So what are my options as far as living a good life, and what do I want, and to build that for myself? As you saw in my series last week, there's a lot of talk happening right now on social media and various platforms about adult children who go no contact with the parent. And I've been thinking about it. I can't remember if I said this in one of the episodes, but just, it'd be nice if maybe the subject was discussed as parents who have children that go no contact with them, because it's kind of like everything is put on us. And yeah, we're just very often described as though it's easy for us. There's no pain involved. Only the parent is hurting. We just shrug our shoulders and walk off without a care. And those of us who've walked this difficult path know how extremely ignorant that is. And, some years the pain isn't as intense. Other years the grief just swarms all around us. And however you're feeling this year, either way, it's okay. Neither way is wrong. If you're trying to navigate the holiday season after going no contact, or if you're in contact, but you're just not spending the holiday season with certain family members anymore, so things have changed, this is your opportunity to develop your very own new traditions. Or no traditions at all, really. The world is your oyster with this, and we don't have to do something just because that's the way it's always been done. It's okay to do new things and break from the ritual if that's what works best for us. If you do want something traditional that you do every year, that's fine too, but you get to decide what that is. I mentioned we moved to South America last June, and we have some friends here we'll be spending Christmas Eve with, or really acquaintances, and then some other friends during the afternoon of Christmas Day. And I think in addition to everything I just said, part of what I think hit me this year was that these are newer friends, and so while they're wonderful and I really love spending time with them, I truly do, we're just still in that process of slowly growing closer. So because it's still a newer relationship and that close bond is still developing, it just hasn't had the time yet to be fully there. I guess at Christmas time for me, I want that closeness. And because I live 2 continents away from anybody I've known long enough that I have that with, it's just not an option right now. But I also have been telling myself, by next year, much of that will have changed. We'll have been here for a year and a half, and it will be different. So what we're doing is we're going to Christmas Eve dinner with a number of people that we barely know. Actually, most of them I probably don't know. The couple that's hosting who invited us, we literally just met them on Saturday, and there's a few other people I know well enough that, I would call them a strong acquaintance at this point. It's going to be a big dinner and just a kind of a random gift exchange where you bring something under $20 or whatever. So we're going to do that. And then Christmas morning, my son's going to open his gifts, and then we're going to go have lunch in the afternoon with a couple that, this is kind of who I was meaning, that we've been growing closer and closer to. It's a weird year for us, we're on the equator. It's hot and sunny, and not that I'm complaining about that. I'm sorry to those of you who are experiencing otherwise and would prefer it be warm, but where I live, the seasons are reversed. So we're just now entering summer and coming out of spring. So for me, the holiday season, it's usually cold and snowing, which I actually hate the cold and snow, but still, it's almost like Christmas snuck up on me this year because it was so warm. It just didn't really feel like the season. And so a lot is different this year, and I'm learning to understand that that's okay. It's okay if nothing's the same as the holiday seasons before. It's a holiday. It's one day out of the year. I guess if you count Christmas Eve, if that's your thing, 2 days out of the year. My mother made so much revolve around Christmas from the year, made it like this was what the year was all about, that I truly didn't grasp this until after my first Christmas, after I went no contact. And that it's just a holiday. It's just 1 or 2 days out of the year. It's a time to rest and to do something we enjoy. That may involve being with people we enjoy being with and care about, but not always. It doesn't have to mean that. It might mean going out for Chinese food because that's what's open, right? Or taking a trip somewhere on our own, or with friends, or with family that treats us well and that treat us with love and that we love. It can mean snuggling up on the couch and having a movie day or reading a great book. It can mean investing the day in a big craft you've been wanting to do. It can mean so many things, all of which are right and none of which are wrong, because it's your holiday. And it's one tiny part of the year for you to do with it what you want and give it the meaning that works for you. But whatever you do, I do hope it's filled with warmth and love, not necessarily just from others, but from yourself. Take time to love yourself this holiday season. Remember that you're not defective. Even as we've taken on harm from the abuse we've suffered and have problems for that, that isn't all of who you are. You're so much more than that. We are so much more than that. And there's so much more to love about you. So let this season take on whatever meaning you want, but make sure you take a little time to set aside and love yourself and show yourself some warmth and care. And whatever meaning you decide, next year that meaning might change. Who knows? But decide what you want it to be and what you want it to mean for you. If you're really struggling this holiday season and you just want a listening ear, please feel free to share in the comments if you're comfortable, and if that's too public for you, I completely understand. But if you just want someone to truly listen who understands, send me an email. It's right there on the screen. And share whatever's on your mind or heart. I can't necessarily change your circumstances, which I'm sure you know. But I can listen. And I'm one that can listen with an understanding heart. I'll be watching my email more closely over the next few days. And just know that I'm here for you if I can help. And with that, I'm going to wrap this up. I'll see you next week. And please remember, to all my fellow survivors, you are worthy, you are valuable, and you are beautiful, whether your mom sees that or not.